Okay, welcome everyone. This is the third lecture about the icon. So the topic of this lecture is about the use of the icon, and in Chinese is how 如何敬礼圣像. So for the Orthodox people, it is a very important thing, and I think it is a natural lecture after we first introduce the icon historical background of the icon, and second about the theological understanding of the icon. We come to a more practical level today is to talk about the use of the icon. So as you maybe already know, Xenia is my classmate in the Holy Cross Greek Orthodoxy seminaries, and she is an iconographer. So she made icon for 10 years. I think for more than 10 years. She still learn and from this continue his study in this area. So I think he's a specialist about the icon. Yeah. So it is my honor to invite Xenia and have a lecture to us. Okay, I will speak a little Chinese. Yeah,大家晚上好。今天我们有幸再次邀请到这个 Xenia 圣像师傅给我们做第3次的讲座。第一次讲座呢是关于这个圣像之争的这个历史背景篇，第2次讲座呢是关于圣像的这个神学理解篇在教理层面是怎么解释的。第3次讲座呢我们要谈到如何敬礼圣像。所以呢，如果大家对这个圣像是否是偶像崇拜感兴趣的话，我建议大家去听第2次的讲座或者第1次和第2次的讲座，来巩固这些知识。那么我们非常有幸邀请到 Xenia 圣像师傅给我们做第3期的讲座。那么这期的讲座可能篇幅不会太长，他会留更多的时间来做这个问答环节OK, so 我在这里再简单的介绍一下我们的这个光从东方来的系列讲座呢是介绍东方教会传统的我们的讲员和我们整个施工举办的这个讲座的平台运作全部是免费的所以大家如果有感动或者从我们的讲座里面获得知识有感动给我们奉献的话，欢迎到网站的平台这个 donation 里面去找到我们，然后奉献。好，我们在这里面废话不多说，我们就请这个 Xenia 开始给我们开始今天的这个讲座。So Xenia, you can begin your lecture now, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you everyone for having me. It's nice to be here again with you. So the first time we talked about the history of icons, and in my second talk, we talked about their theology and their meaning.
OK, 我很高兴被邀请到参与这次讲座。我们讲过了2期，第1期是讲到这个圣像之争的历史背景，第2期讲到这个神学，圣像的神学和它的意义。
This time we're going to talk about the use of icons in our daily life. So this is a much more practical discussion than what we've had in the past.
所以今天我们要谈到圣像的使用，也就是如何敬礼圣像。所以今天这个讲座将更加具有实践性。
But this is a good thing because it's important that we know that we are able to take our theology and put it into our daily lives.
但这是好事这个是我们很重要的是把我们的这个神学的理念和信仰呢运用到生活的实践当中。
Okay, so the church generally talks about God in the form of apophatic theology.
那么教会历史上教父们经常谈到这个否定神学。
This means that we say what God is not instead of what God is.
它基本的意思是说我们以否定的方式说上帝不是什么来谈论上帝。
Because it is difficult for us to say that we know exactly what God is, but we can definitely say the things that we know he is not.
因为我们谈论上帝准确的谈论上帝是什么是非常难的。 但是我们谈上帝不是什么却没有那么难。
So I thought that it would be appropriate to also begin talking about the use of icons in an apophatic way, meaning what we should not do with them.
那我们首先要谈，也是谈这个使用圣像的就是否定的方面哈，就是我们说不恰当的使用圣像的方面。
So first of all, the icons are not just decorations.
首先，圣像不是装饰物、装饰品，
They are not paintings done just for the visual effect.
所以他们画下来，并不是只是为了这个你的视觉享受。
If we hang up icons on our walls the same way that we would any other painting, just to make things look good, then we're missing the point of what an icon is.
如果我们把圣像挂在墙上，跟其他的艺术作品一样放在那里，那么这个就是对圣像的一种误用
I want to tell you a story that I think will help to illustrate this idea.
我想给你们讲个故事来说明这点。
There's a person I know who is now Orthodox but used to be Protestant, and they went to the Holy Land when they were still Protestant.
这里有一个朋友他从前是一个新教徒，他有一次呢去了这个 Holy Land，是圣地去那里拜访。
So they went to Bethlehem to the Church of the Nativity, and this is the photo that you see here.
对，他们去了伯利恒那个耶稣诞生的地方这个就是伯利恒的那个教堂。
And in the church in Bethlehem, there is this silver star in the ground through which there's a hole, and underneath are the rocks of the cave that they say where the manger that held the baby Jesus is, where he laid as a baby.
OK，在那个教堂里面有一个you mean the thick wall? It's a cave in the church?
Yes, so there's a hole in the floor, and the rocks are bare. You can feel the rocks under this hole, and these are the rocks of the cave that Christ was born in.
OK，那个教堂呢，里面有一个洞，洞下面呢有个石头这个石头下方呢，据说是耶稣就是诞生的那一个地方。
And this Protestant person was there in this church, and he was just looking at the hole and like taking pictures of it.
那么这个新教徒去教会呢，他就左看右看，然后不断的拍照片。
But there was a monk there in the church, as there are in most of the sites of the Holy Land. And the monk took this man's hand and he put it down in the hole.
在教堂里面有一个修士但就是当时在这个圣地的修士，这个修士呢就抓住这个人的手，然后把他的手呢放到这个洞里面。
The monk wanted this man to see, to feel the rocks, not just to look at them, but to feel the place that Christ laid as a baby.
那么那个修士不仅是想让他只是四处看看，他是希望这个人呢也能够去碰触那块石头就是碰触这个耶稣就是这个这个洞下面的石头亲自碰触感受一下。
This is the difference that I'm talking about with the icons. If we just look at them from the outside, then we're like this man who's just taking pictures of this holy site.
那么这也是我要谈论这个如何使用圣像的一个原因之一如果我们只是拿着圣像看看而已呢就像这个人进这个教堂左看右看，然后拍拍照片。
And if we're just looking from the outside, then the icons remain separate from us.
如果我们只是从外表来看这个圣像的话，那么这个圣像跟我们还是分隔的状态。
But just like when the monk put the man's hand down this hole, he brought him into communion with an experience of Christ.
但是当那个修士抓住这个新教徒的手去触摸石头的时候，他是试图让这个新教徒呢去与这个通过这些与上帝与基督相交。
And the icons are here to offer us, to bring us into relationship, to bring us into a connection with Christ and his mother and all the saints and the hosts of heaven.
那么圣像是带领信徒与他所代表的原型呢去相交的一个媒介所以是他这个圣像是让我们可以与那个原型相交的。
The icons are here as an invitation to open our lives to heaven and to bring heaven into our life.
这个圣像呢，在这里面是一个是一个媒介它带领我们进到天堂从天上，然后让我们与天上的这些这个圣徒耶稣基督上帝之母圣人们相交。
But if we don't open ourselves to that relationship and we only look at them as a decoration on the wall, then they will always remain something separate from us.
但如果我们不打开自己通过圣像与这些圣徒相交的话，那么仅仅只是把圣像当一个装饰品的话，那么圣像跟我们的关系就是一个隔离的状态，分隔的状态。
So it is also possible for us to go wrong in the opposite direction.
但也有可能我们走向另外一种极端。
If we stay closed off from the icons, then we've missed the point. But it's also possible for us to get too attached to the material of the icon.
那么我们一方面如果把 icon 隔得太远的话就是与它分隔了；另外一方面就是我们可能太 attach 太执着于这个icon 的物质或者质料的层面，也是另外一种极端。
So icons are not magical objects.
圣像不是法器圣像不是法器具有法力的那种意思。
And it is an error to attribute any spiritual power to the wood and the paint of the icon.
Sorry, I think it's because internet problem. Can you repeat the sentence again?
Sure, it is an error. It's a mistake if we attribute power to the paint and the wood of the icon.
OK, 如果我们认为圣像所使用的这些颜料或者材质具有某种法力的话，那也是对圣像的一种误解。
The goal of the icons is to connect us to the person who is depicted thereon, not to connect us to the artwork or the board itself.
那么圣像的目标是让我们与他所描绘的这个原型也就是这个耶稣基督上帝之母圣人们有这个相交有联系而不是让我们把这些就是绘制这些圣像的这些材质和颜料也好木板也好呢神化
The early Christian fathers, they always say that virtue is in the middle between the two extremes.
早期教父们说这个美德是在两个极端的中间。
So if we do not open our hearts to the presence of the icons, then it's like we haven't made it up to the icon. We've stopped too short.
如果我们没有打开我们的心，然后去跟这个圣像以及他所描绘的原型有这种相交的话，那我们我们和圣像的关系是一种隔离的状态这个距离就是 too short，就是就达不到这个 icon 的真正使用的这个功效。
But if we attach ourselves to the physical object, it's like we've gone too far. We've missed it over to the other side, in that we've still missed the relationship with the person.
那么，但如果我们把这些认为这些圣像的材质和材料有什么神奇的法力哈，或者像巫术，像我们所说的这个佛教、道教的法器一样说它这个材料本身有什么大能的话，那么也是另外一种极端哈。
Okay, but there's kind of a footnote on this topic.
OK，我们有一个注脚哈，关于这一点。What is this pictures?
And these pictures are of people venerating. This is a Mer streaming icon, the icon of the Everon icon from Hawaii. So it's a so this is my footnote, that there are actually certain icons that stream Mer and work miracles more than other icons do.
那么当然在这个正教里面确实有一些圣像他们streamer 是留下了一种墨药应该是 it is a liquid the myrrh is
yes, it's like an oil that's very fragrant. It smells like heaven.
OK 这应该就是墨药就是一种液体的墨药然后这些圣像确实它流出了它有这种神迹出现。
So you can see in this icon, this is the one, the myrrh streaming icon, and they put all of this cotton under it because there's the myrrh is running off the icon and they collect it in the cotton.
OK 那么这个圣像呢，它确实留下了墨药就像墨药是一种像油一样有点像油一样的那种香就是带着香味的一种液体。然后呢，他们用一些棉布就是放在这个圣像的下方来收集这些墨药。
And then they'll take this cotton that has been soaked with the myrrh and anoint people with it. That's what he's doing. He's anointing her on her neck there.
那么这个神父呢，就是把这些浸有这个墨药的棉布就是棉花吧拿下来，然后呢就是抹在人的身上。
And people have been healed from cancer and all sorts of diseases through this myrrh that comes out of these icons.
那么也有人呢，由于这个墨药抹在他们身上，他们确实他们的疾病得到了治愈。
So this is the balance, in that there are certain icons that may have more power, like the ability to work miracles more than other icons do.
那么这确实有一些特例就是在圣像当中有一些特别有一些特别的圣像呢，它具有我们可以说具有更多的能力要比其他的圣像有更多的 power， 比如说这个。
And for many people, to be in the presence of one of these myrrh streaming icons is a life-changing, unbelievable event.
那么对很多人来说，如果他们就是亲眼看见或者得到这个特别圣像的祝福的话呢，他确实对他来说是一个生命彻底的改变。
But even in the case of these miraculous icons, we should still not be amazed at the power of the icon itself, but the power of God that is present.
那么即使有这样的就是流出墨药就是有这种神迹奇事医病能力的这种圣像出现，我们仍然不要认为这个这个圣像本身有什么特别的能力这一切都是由于上帝的大能造成的。
God might use the icon or the myrrh streaming off of the icon to work miracles, but it is always the power of God that works.
对上帝呢，可能使用这些圣像以及他流出的墨药来医病来施展神迹但是这始终是上帝本身透过这些来施展，是上帝的大能。
Okay, so a third thing that we should avoid with the icons is getting too familiar with them.
第三个我们需要避免的就是在使用圣像过程中需要避免的就是与他们太熟了。
This is especially a problem today because in the modern age we can print icons so easily.
这个是我们现代社会的一个问题因为现代社会很容易就把这个圣像呢打印出来。
For most of the history of the church, before we had so much technology, icons were a very expensive possession.
在古代我们没有我们现在这些印刷各样技术的时候，圣像是一个非常贵的这个物品。
The only way you could get an icon was paying an iconographer to make one for you.
那么在那时，唯一获取圣像的途径是你给这个圣像师傅付钱，然后定制一个。
And therefore, people treated them very precious. They would be handed down in families as an heirloom.
那么由于这种现象，那个时候的人们对圣像是非常珍贵的因为付了很多钱，并且会把它当做一个传家宝一样的。一代一代往下传。
Frequently, the icons in the churches were commissioned by the royalty or people of upper class because they were the ones who could afford to paint a whole church.
那么在那个时候，这个教堂东正教教堂的这种圣像的壁画都是由于皇家的皇室的成员或者贵族的成员呢。来做因为他们付大量的钱呢，提供给这些圣像师傅在教堂呢做这种壁画。
So because they were costly and rare to come across, people naturally treated the icons with great reverence. They were seen as very precious things.
由于这种现象呢，人们很自然的对这个圣像呢。抱有很大的尊重。
But today, we can print them off in mass productions and put them on paper or anything we like, and we lose the same reverence towards them, or it's possible to lose the reverence towards them.
但是由于今天我们可以很快的去把这些圣像呢，这些图片，就圣像。打印出来，然后我们可以插在这个书里面，或者放在一个地方可能放的各处都是。那如果是这种情况的话，我们就失去了对这个圣像应有的这种崇敬或者说敬畏。
Now, the Seventh Ecumenical Council said that there are three things that make an icon: the name, the halo, and the resemblance of the person.
这个第7次大公会议的时候，他说，这个圣像里面有3个元素，第一个是名字，第二个是halo， you mean halo is the cycle？ OK， 是这个圣人后面的那个光圈第三个呢就是这个圣徒圣人的这个画这个类似的这个画圣像。
So even the least quality production that we can make today, it can still count as an icon if it has the name, the halo, and the resemblance of the saint.
那么即使是今天可能比较粗糙的或者印刷技术印出来的圣像，只要它包含这个圣人的名字这个圣人后面的光圈，还有圣人的这个圣像肖像。 那么它仍然算是一幅这个圣像。
So we do not have a problem calling these prints icons, but the problem is in how we treat them.
那么我们就是这些打印出来的哈，就是成本低廉打印出来的圣像啊，当然它是圣像，但是我们的问题不在这点哈，而是在于我们如何对待这些打印出来的圣像。
So if you have someone who doesn't have very much money to order real icons or painted icons, and they get some paper prints, but they treat them with reverence, they hang them up in their house and treat them as icons, there's not a problem with this.
对，如果现在人他们没有钱来请这个圣像师傅给他们专门的画一幅就是圣像或者说就花比较高的价钱的话，那么他可以自己呢去打印出来，打印出来之后，只要他就恰当的对他们表达尊敬，对这个圣像表达尊敬的话呢，也是可以的。
But the problem comes when we are careless with them.
这个问题是来自于我们对他们的不尊敬不尊敬。
If we fold it up in our wallet and then it gets ripped and we throw it away, this is a problem. This is not an appropriate way to handle an icon.
那么，比如说，如果我们把这一个圣像放到我们的wallet 是 OK 是钱袋里面哈，然后它被磨损了，然后或者说被破坏了之后呢，我们就把它扔到垃圾桶里面。那这个就是对圣像的一种不恰当的使用。
Or, for example, people make coffee mugs with icons on them. But we have to ask within ourselves if it is helpful for us, if it is reverential towards the saint to be pouring coffee on him.
比如说现在我们有这个咖啡杯子里面就是印上这个圣像那么我们会反问，这个是一种恰当的对圣像表达敬礼的一种方式吗？或者说圣人们喜欢我们把这个咖啡倒到这个上面吗？
It's also possible to buy things like t-shirts or clothing that have icons printed on them. But we must be careful if we're laying down, are we laying down on a saint? Or if we take our shirt off and throw it in the floor, we've just thrown an icon on the floor. In these things, it's very difficult to treat an icon as it should be treated when we have it printed on things for our everyday use.
那么比如说我们还有另外一个例子，就是把这个圣像呢印在这个 T 恤上衣服上那么如果说我们把衣服脱了随便扔到这个地上的话，那这个是对圣像的一种恰当的尊重的表现吗？就是对圣像表达一种敬礼吗？我觉得应该不是哈。
So in all these things, the problem is not necessarily the printing of the icon, but what we do with the printed icon.
所以总的原则是，问题不是说印出来的这个圣像本身不是圣像或者有什么问题，而是我们如何去而是我们如何去那个去对待这些圣像。
We should always show reverence towards icons. They should inspire us to pray.
那我们必须一直去表达对圣像的一种尊敬他们这些圣像总是来激励我们去祷告。
Icons should never be thrown in the trash.
圣像不应该被扔到垃圾桶里面。
Even if an icon has gotten worn out with time or damaged, the proper way to dispose of an icon is to burn it so that the image is no longer there. So the image never goes into the trash.
即使这个圣像由于时间的原因被磨损啊，或者已经不能再用了，那么也不应该扔到垃圾桶里面，而是把它埋起来，哈，用土埋起来。
Icons should also never be left on the floor or on the ground.
圣像也不应该把它扔到地上啊，就随意的放到地上。
And this attitude is actually helpful for us in our whole life.
那么这种态度，对我们知道如何建立圣像是非常有帮助的啊。
The icons are especially holy as especially the ones that, that have the image of Christ on them. But God has made the whole world, and we should be careful with everything that we use in this world.
那么我们需要表达对这个圣像的尊敬，因为这个圣像所描绘的原型是圣洁的，尤其是关于耶稣基督的圣像。那么呃，并且上帝是万物的创造者，这也提醒我们要恰当的使用上帝所赐予我们的一切。
Everything that we have in this life, we should look at it as if we have borrowed it from God, but it still belongs to Him.
那么我们所使用的一切就要把它视作不是我们的，而是上帝借给我们的。我们要以一种讨神喜悦的方式来使用。
In the Psalms, King David says that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. All things are the work of His hands.
在诗篇里面，诗人大卫这样说哈，这个整个大地都是属于上帝的，其中的一切都是他所造的，都是他手所造的。
And as human beings, it is our job to be the stewards of God's creation, to take care of it, not just to use it up and throw it away.
那么作为上帝的子民，我们应该去珍视上帝所借给我们的一切，是照他的心意去使用，而不是把它随意使用然后扔掉。
So icons are one example of a way that we can learn to treat all that God has given us with honor.
那么圣像是其中一个例子哈，就是我们教导我们如何使用上帝赐予我们的这个一切的例子。
It helps us to be humble and to give honor to God in our daily life, to know that we have things that we should honor for His sake.
那么这个也让我们谦卑哈，就是不是让自己认为自己拥有什么东西，而是上帝给我们，我们就从这感恩的心呢，照着上帝的心意呢来使用它，来珍视我们所拥有的一切啊。
Okay, this is enough of the apophatic teaching, what we should not do with icons. Let's move into the cataphatic, the positive of what we should do with icons.
那么我们谈到对于圣像不恰当的使用哈，就谈到这里。我们接下来谈这个对圣像正确的使用方式是怎样子的。
Since the early centuries of the church, the Christians have venerated icons.
既然早期教会基督徒们就已经开始对圣像表达敬礼。
For Orthodox Christians, this is not just a mental or a spiritual attitude, but it is also a physical action.
对于正教徒来说，对圣像的敬礼，并不是一种精神上的或者灵性上的尊敬，而是一种实际的行动和操练。
Because God did not just make us as a brain, He made us as with spirit, soul, and body all together in one as a human being.
那么，上帝不仅是造了我们的头脑或者说我们的灵魂，他也造了我们的身体是一个整全的有身体和灵魂的全人。
When Orthodox Christians venerate icons, they make the sign of the cross over themselves, they bow themselves down, and then kiss the icons.
对正教徒来说，他们表达敬礼呢，是他们在圣像的面前，这个画十架的圣号，然后呢，他们对圣像鞠躬然后亲吻圣像。
So the cross sanctifies us and gives us the boldness to approach the holy person
那么这个十字
when we
架呢
make the sign of the cross.
？OK，sorry, can you repeat the sentence?
Yes, so we make the sign of the cross over us because the cross is our sanctification. It gives us the ability to approach holy people.
OK，我们画十架圣号呢，就是圣化我们或者 sanctify 净化我们自己给了我们这个能力呢，可以去接近圣人。
And then bow down to humble ourselves so that we realize we're approaching someone more holy than we are.
那我们在圣像面前这个鞠躬是表达我们来到了一个圣人面前，就表达我们对他的一个尊敬就表示这个我们所面对的这个人呢，要比我们更加的圣洁。
And then we kiss the icon as of course, an expression of our love for God.
那么我们也吻圣像，那当然是表达我们对圣像的一种爱。
Generally, we kiss the hands of the saints as long as we can see them.
通常来说，我们会亲吻这个圣人的手只要我们还能看到他。
But if it is an icon of Christ, then we kiss his feet, if it's possible, if you can see his feet.
但如果是一个圣人的也是耶稣的圣像的话，耶稣基督的圣像的话，那我们会亲吻他的脚如果能够看到在圣像当中看到他的脚的位置的话。
For the Orthodox people, when we greet an icon of Christ, we greet Christ himself.
对于正教徒来说，我们向圣像表达这种敬礼呢，其实就是对基督的圣像表达敬礼，就是对基督表达这种尊敬。
For years and years in our lives, whenever we see the feet of Christ, we kiss them.
那么在多年的这个经验当中，我们只要看到这个圣像当中耶稣的脚，那么就亲吻这个耶稣的脚。
And this becomes a habit that is ingrained in us, becomes natural to us.
那么这个是正教徒的一种习俗或者说一种习惯成为了这个正教徒的一种很自然的行动。
It becomes so natural to us that I think for someone who is used to kissing the feet of Christ on the icon, when we meet Christ in heaven on Judgment Day, I think it will be the most natural thing to immediately fall down and kiss his feet in person.
对于那些这个亲吻这个耶稣脚的圣像当耶稣脚的人来说那么可以想象，当他上了天堂的时候，他会很自然的来到耶稣面前亲吻他的脚。
Okay, so that's the veneration of icons. To keep our icons well, we should put them in an honorable place in our home.
那么这个第二点呢，第一点是表达十架的圣号，然后鞠躬，然后亲吻圣像。第二点呢，就是要把圣像呢放在我们房间的一个合一的角落。
The icons could be hung on the wall or placed on a special shelf or a table in your house.
这个圣像应该是放在墙上或者放在墙上的一个就是一个延伸出来一个小桌台上就是像这个图上一样，或者放在一个特别的这个桌子上，专门用于这个放圣像的地方。
Traditionally, in the homes of Orthodox Christians, there is one main place in the house, a wall or a corner, where they hang their icons, and that place in their home is reserved for prayer.
那么在正教徒的家里面，通常会留下一面墙或者一个角落，专门用于这个放置圣像，然后这个地方呢是专门用来让正教徒祈祷的。
In that place, there would also normally be an oil lamp burning, like you see in this photo. There's 3. There could be just 1 or more.
这个他们在圣像面前还用这个油点灯在这个图上我们看到有3盏，当然有时候也可能只有1个。
And this would also be a place that they would have and burn incense.
这个也可以焚香哈，就是有一些买一些很小的这种香炉呢，放一些香料到里面焚香的地方。
If it's possible, it's ideal if this place faces east.
如果可能的话，那么这个you mean the icon put to the put the direction of the east, or the icon his face towards the east?
So that we would be facing towards the east. So the wall that it's hanging on is an east wall, and we would face the east.
OK，so 这个圣像放置的位置呢，正好是我们站着对他们祈祷的时候，我们的脸呢是正朝东方的这样一个方位，如果可能的话。
Orthodox churches are also built facing the east, and this is because Christ is the Son of righteousness, and the east is where the light appears from, and we see this as an image of the coming of the light of Christ.
对，正教的建筑，其实不只是了哈，早期教会它的教堂全部是面朝东的，因为这个就象征着这个耶稣基督太阳从东方升起就是耶稣基督就预表这个公义的太阳。
So we face the east in prayer, so that we are always expecting the coming of the light.
那我们朝东方祷告那我们都是盼望着这个基督的太阳呢照耀我们。
This place in the home is called either the icon corner or the prayer corner. Even if it's not in a corner, we still generally call it.
那么这个地方被称为这个圣像的角，或者说祈祷的角落。如果即使它不是角落，我们也把它称为角落哈。
And this would be a place that is separated from the rest of the work of your house. So you wouldn't put it like right above your work desk or right above your kitchen sink or somewhere that you would be distracted by other things.
那么这个圣像的角落不是你放在一个书房或者正好你在办公的一个桌上，或者你厨房的一个上方的一个柜子一个小桌台上，而是一个专门用于你祈祷的一个地方不就是不干别的事情因为你放在那些地方的话容易分神的。
It is possible and it is okay to have an icon in those places above your desk or your kitchen sink or somewhere where you're working and you spend time, somewhere that it will help you remember God while you're working.
但是虽然圣像角落不建议放在那里，但是这样做也是可以的就是你放一个圣像在你这个办公的地方，或者你做饭的地方或者吃饭的地方，让你在做饭办公的时候通过看这个圣像来提醒你关于上帝提醒你祷告那也是可以的。
So you can have icons in those other places to help you remember God, but you want to have one main space in your home that is dedicated to God, and this is where most of your icons would be.
OK，你可以在这些你写作业办公写论文或者做饭的地方呢，放一个圣像，让你提醒你意念上帝但这个不应该是是你放圣像角落的一个地方。我们说 icon，圣像角落的地方是你专门一个空间，专门用于放圣像、用于祈祷的地方。那么这个地方呢，要单独的拿出来。
Having a prayer corner is helpful in many ways.
对，我们有一个祈祷的角落会很有帮助。
First of all, it helps us in our prayer life because it is separated from the rest of our house. That helps us to focus and not be distracted with our daily cares.
首先呢，有这样一个圣像角落，由于它跟房间的其他地方呢有所区别，那么就可以帮助我们在祈祷的时候专注于祷告，不被其他的事物所这个分心。
It also helps us just this offering of giving a small part of our home to God so that we know that He is always with us and what we have is His.
有一个圣像角落也提醒我们，我们把房间的一个地方呢专门用于来服侍上帝，这个是好的，并且也提醒我们，我们所拥有的一切都是上帝给我们的。
For most people, you will not spend most of your day in your icon corner.
对于大多数人来说，你不可能把一天大部分的时间用于在这个圣像角落里面祷告。
You will be doing well if you have a small time in the morning and the evening that you can spend there.
如果说你早上或者晚上有一段时间在圣像角落里面祷告的话，你做的其实还可以了。
But even the rest of the day, when you go about your business, it's helpful just to see that it is there and remember that God has a place in your home and in your life.
那么，即便你没有这么多的时间，由于繁忙，你只是看一眼这个圣像角落，也会帮助你。这个上帝呢看顾你的家，然后你呢在家里面有一片角落专门用于献给上帝用来祈祷的。
For Orthodox Christians, anytime that we just walk past our prayer corner in our house, we would traditionally make the sign of the cross over us and say a short prayer.
对于很多正教徒来说，当我们经过这个祈祷的角落的时候，我们会画十字架的圣号，然后呢做一个简短的祷告。
And this is just in your heart, even if you just say, Lord, have mercy, or Lord, help me. Just you don't have to stop what you're doing, but just so that in the middle of your daily life, you still remember God.
这个不需要你做一个很长的祷告，你只是说主怜悯我在心里面说就可以了并不是说让你停下来专门做一个祷文，而是你经过的时候你在心里面简短的说一次，然后呢，这也提醒你每天要向上帝祷告。
The more often that we see the icons and respond to them, even with just a very short prayer, the more accustomed we become to remembering God at all times.
我们越是这样频繁的看到圣像就祷告的话，那我们就更有几率呢养成一个跟上帝相交祈祷的生活。
Okay, one last thing that I would like to share is that icons should be connected to their historical settings.
还有最后一个我想提醒的是，就是圣像必须跟这个historical you mean the actual historical
Like the time and country that the people lived in.
OK 那么最后一件关于圣像是就是这个圣人所这个绘制的景象要符合这个他们当时所处的这个历史时期的一个情况。
So even though in icons we do not try to paint reality exactly as it appears to us, but it still needs to be recognizable as to what it is.
虽然圣像当中所画的这些物件山树这个房子会跟真实看到的景象有所区隔，但是它仍然要在圣像当中能够认出来是什么东西。
If you remember, we said that the Seventh Ecumenical Council gave us 3 qualifications for the icons, and one of those is the resemblance.
那么如果你记得的话，在第7次大会的时候谈到圣像的第3个特征，其中一个特征是相似性 resemblance。
So if an icon doesn't resemble the person or the scene that it's depicting, then it has failed.
那如果一个圣像，他的这个圣人的这个肖像跟实际的肖像有非常不一样或者说他圣像当中的一些景象跟这个圣人所处的这个时期的景象也很不一样的话，那么它就不是圣像了。
So this means specifically, the Lord Jesus Christ was born in the 1st century AD in Palestine, of Jewish lineage.
这个具体来说就是我们的主耶稣基督他出生于这个2000多年前巴勒斯坦的属于犹太的犹太家族的一个婴孩。
If I were to paint the scene of the crucifixion in New York City and Jesus is wearing a t-shirt and jeans, there would be a disconnect between the reality of what happened and my image.
如果我画一个圣像画基督的圣像这个基督是在这个纽约的城市里面，他穿着是这个上面是 T 恤衫，下面是牛仔裤，那么这个就是就违反了第7次大会议这个相似性的原则。
In such a case, the resemblance is broken and the icon loses its purpose.
由于这种相似性被打破，那么圣像的这个目的也就失去了。
This is also the case when people try to paint Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes, or as if he was African or from some other place. It's no longer a connection to the historical incarnate Son of God.
比如说我们画这个基督的圣像的时候，画成一个长的头发，或者蓝色的眼睛或者黑色的皮肤完全跟这个当时巴勒斯坦地区的人的这个样貌很不一样的话那么就失去了这种相似性了。
And this works for more modern saints also, people who were lived in different eras. If we were to paint them in the same clothes as the apostles in the 1st century, this would still be an error.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. Can you repeat the sentence? I think
Yes.
my brain I need to down. I don't know.
No problem. So it's wrong if we take something that happened a long time ago and paint it as if it happened today. But it's also wrong if we take modern saints and paint them as if they lived in the 1st century.
这个对我们如果画这个1世纪的人物的这个圣像，画的跟我们现代人一样，那么这是一种错误。如果我们画现代人画成1、2世纪的人一样，那也是一种错误。
So this icon here, this is a scene of the Archangel Michael rescuing this monastery from a flood. And this monk is from the 9th century, I believe, and he's wearing the traditional clothes of a monk.
对这个圣像呢，里面画的是这个天使加百列吧他试图就是拯救从这个洪水当中拯救这个修院，而这个修士呢是9世纪的一个修士，it's 9th century the monk 9世纪的一个修士，那么他穿的这个服饰呢也是9世纪传统的这个修士服饰。
But here we have an icon of the martyrs of China who were killed in the Boxer Rebellion in the year 1900.
那么这个是我们中国人的一个圣像，那么这个圣像里面的圣人呢是在这个义和团运动1900年的时候呢被杀害的就是顺道士。
And while, of course, the priest is clothed as a priest, you can see in the clothing of the other women that they are from China. They don't look like the apostles or something.
那这个圣像告诉我们，你们看他的这个，当然神父的服饰还是神父的服饰，但是其他的人的服饰，你们可以看出来，其实是这些服饰装扮是来自中国的啊，不是来自其他地区的。
So it is important that the icon is connected to the historical reality that it is depicting.
那么圣像所绘制的内容必须符合这个历史的事实啊，这个是非常重要的。
If the icon is not connected to the historical reality, it becomes a fantasy.
如果圣像画描绘的内容不符合历史事实的话，那么只是出于一个人的想象。
And fantasy is a problem in Orthodox spirituality.
而这个自己的想象对于这个东正教的灵修来说是一个问题。
The early Christian writers, especially the writers on prayer and the spiritual life, were very strict that we need to avoid fantasy.
在这个教会这个灵修的历史上，早期的教父们谈论的时候，我们在祈祷在这个灵修生活当中要严格限制自己的想象力。
Because fantasy is our own world. We are playing God and creating our own world.
因为想象呢是我们自己的世界，我们在这里面创造我们自己的神灵，我们自己的想象出来的东西。
God made the world that is in front of us, but when we go into fantasy, we depart from God's world and move into our own creation.
上帝创造了这个世界为我们创造这个世界。当我们离开这个现实的世界，还进入自己的想象的世界的时候，我们就离开了上帝，进入自己所创造的世界。
Therefore, the icons need to always connect us to God's reality, not to our own imagination.
因此呢，圣像总是把我们联系到这个上帝的事实当中这个教会历史的事实当中而不是我们自己的这个想象当中。
The reality of God's world is something greater than what we see with our physical eyes.
上帝的这个真实的世界是远超过我们肉眼可见的现象的世界的。
God's reality is that the kingdom of heaven is already present among us.
这个上帝的真实呢，是上帝宣告上帝的国已经在我们当中了。
And this is what reality the icons are trying to lead us into.
这个就是那个sorry it's a doorbell yeah okay wait can you wait for 1 minute and to take the package sorry sorry for that and can you repeat the last sentence? I think it's a good point.
Yes, so God's reality is that the kingdom of heaven is already present among us. And this is the reality that the icons bring us into.
那么上帝的这个真实呢，是上帝的国 降临到我们中间，而这个真实呢是圣像试图把我们带入的。
Our modern world is so full of illusion and deception, and it's changing all the time.
我们现在的世界充满了这种illusion 这个幻象还有defection 就是欺骗自己想象出来的东西。
But God's kingdom is unchanging and eternal and always beautiful.
但是上帝的这个世界是从不改变的，并且是始终美丽的。
The icons are a witness to us that God's world is real and it is open to us and available.
那么圣像告诉我们上帝是真实的他始终试图向我们展现这个上帝的国。
The more that we learn to interact with the icons, the more we will learn to enter into God's world.
我们越是学会如何与这个圣像使用敬礼圣像与交流，那我们就越是参与到这个上帝的国的之中。
And as we do this, the icons will teach us to live in the kingdom of heaven, even while we're still on this earth.
如果我们恰当的敬礼圣像的话，那么圣像会引导我们就是与神相交进入这个神的国当中，即使我们仍然还在这个今生活着。
Okay, this is my presentation, and I will be happy to answer questions.
OK，好，我们今天的这个讲座就到这里。我很高兴去看大家有什么问题没有。OK, thank you very much, Xenia, and I think it's a wonderful lecture, and especially for the Orthodox people in China who are going to learn how to venerate the icons, and I think it's very clear and the apophatic way and the cataphatic way, it's very clear and perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. So we need 1 minute, probably kind of a 2 minutes break. You can have a drink of coffee or something, and then we go back. If you at the same time you think you have questions, you just you can tap on the chat, and also you can open your mic and to ask the question. OK， 好，我们留2分钟的时间给大家时间来想具体有什么问题然后可以你也可以选择打到聊天栏里面，也可以选择呢自己开麦举手开麦，然后呢就问问题当然大家要知道由于这个课是公开课，所以你的问题呢都会在网络上的，所以你完全可以选择自己的匿名的方式来问或者直接这个用 chat 聊天的方式呢问就可以了好我们就暂时等1分钟，然后看大家的问题。OK。we wait for 1 minute and then yeah we Okay, I think I have a question, but I prefer the question in the chat. So I will ask the first question. Is she want to ask the difference between the Orthodox icon and the Catholic icon, and yeah, if you know they have some kind of similarity or differences. Yeah.
Yes. So the Orthodox icons are more closely connected to the time of the Byzantine Empire and the Seventh Ecumenical Council.
这个东正教的圣像，当然跟这个拜占庭帝国和这个当时的第7次大公会议有更深远的联系或者更紧密的联系。
So the Orthodox have kept they have the icons have changed less. They are still practicing the same technique that they were practicing in, from the year 800 to 1400 or, anywhere in that time.
那么东正教的圣像，它的这个绘画的 ，you mean the technique is the technique of drawing the icon？ OK 是这个绘画圣像的这种技法呢，其实没有太大的变化，没有太大的变化，相比于天主教来说，可能。
So I think that Orthodox icons, we're more specific in what the function of the icon is, and therefore we're more specific about how it should be made and what it should look like.
那么我们更注重这个function 这个圣像的就是功能就使用。那么也意味着这个圣像的这种它的技法和风格更趋向于就是更稳定就不会有太大变化。
So the function of the icon, the purpose of the icon is to bring us into relationship with the saint. And we have certain things that we do in the way the icon is drawn and painted that make that happen. Or that,
那么对东正教的圣像是用于与这个圣人相交的一个媒介这是它的这个最基本的功能。那么我们为了达到这种目的呢，在这个绘制圣像的时候有一定的技法来把这些展现出来。
Now, I don't know the Catholic icons as well, but it seems to me that they are treated more as art in the Catholic Church, or have been historically.
我其实没有对这个天主教的圣像做过研究我个人的感受是，天主教的圣像呢，可能大家对待它的方式呢，更倾向于一种艺术品或者说在历史上有过类似的这种作用。
And so in the Catholic Church, their icons have developed and changed with the arts of the time period.
比如说这个天主教的圣像他们的绘制方法或者它的展现方式，随着时代的改变呢，而产生了变化。
The East and the West, so Rome and Constantinople, were one church for a long time, and you'll see that their art is the same at least until the year 1000, maybe even 1200 or so. It's pretty much the same.
那么东西方的这种差异，其实可能没有出现那么长就是因为他们其实在1000多年以前甚至可以说1200年前他们是一个教会，还没有正式分裂，所以他们的这个圣像的风格和绘制技法呢，其实是很类似的。
So, but then in the East, in the East it stays pretty much the same. In Rome and the West, then their art develops with the time period.
那么对于东方这个东正教来说，它的没有太大变化之后，就是13世纪以后。那么对西方来说他们随着这个时代的变化这个绘制技法风格都会有所变化。
So if you look at the mosaics of the churches in Ravenna in the 800s, they will look the same as Byzantine icons because it was the same empire.
如果你看what it is what is the time period?
800 around.
So when you look at 看这个一个8世纪的时候的一个处于这个西欧的一个圣像的话，那么他们看起来跟拜占庭的圣像几乎是一样的，因为当时它是都属于东罗马帝国。
But then when the Renaissance comes, all the icons in the West, they look like the Renaissance.
但是当文艺复兴的时候所有的这个天主教的圣像看起来都像文艺复兴的那种风格。
And in modern times, it's even possible to find Catholic churches that have very modern, almost abstract art.
那么现代的技法又不一样了，就是非常抽象派的这种风格。你甚至可能在天主教里面找到一个抽象派画风的这种圣像风格出来。
In the Orthodox icons, if you take this time span from the 800s to the Renaissance into modern times, you'll see small differences, but they will not look like different art forms.
对，但是对于这个拜占庭来说呢，这个就800年就9世纪的时候，到这个13、14纪文艺复兴的时候，一直到现在，你当然可以看到一些细微的差别，但是总体上来说，它没有太大的变化。
My opinion is that this difference is because the Orthodox are very specific that the icon brings us into relationship.
那么我个人的看法呢，就是认为东正教对圣像的看法是认为圣像是把人呢带入与这个圣人或者与上帝相交的一个媒介的这种作用性决定的。
Whereas in the West, the main emphasis on icons is just that they teach us, right? It's like the Bible in paint. It's just an instructional image.
Yeah. 但是对于这个西方来说呢，他们认为圣像主要的作用是用于教育的用于就是绘画出来的这个圣经教育这些不识字的人呢关于圣经的故事的所以教育性更强一点，相交性少一点。对。
So these underlying differences in why we make icons has turned out into visual differences in how they look.
那么这个我们为什么要使用或者如何使用圣像呢？也决定了我们这个圣像的绘画技法和风格的不同。
So I'm not an expert in the Catholic icons, so this is the best that I understand.
这个是我尽我自己所能的回答我不是这个关于天主教圣像的一个专家。好，谢谢。Okay, do we have a further questions? Okay, I have one more question. 不一定十字架的圣像，东正教耶稣的脚是分开的。Okay, he asks a specific icon about the Jesus Christ was hanged on the cross, and she said the Orthodoxy the feet is separate one on the cross, the icon, and the Catholic the 2 feet is fit together. I never noticed that detail, but do you notice that? And she asked what is the difference and what is the meaning of that?
I don't think that this is a theological difference. I think it is just on a practical level of how the East and the West understood what happened at the crucifixion.
我不认为这个是他们之间在神学上有什么差异啊，它只不过是一个实践的层面，就是东西方可能对于耶稣钉十字架的当时的这种景象有自己不同的理解吧。
There are theological differences in how we depict the crucifixion, but I don't think they're the feet.
当然关于这个耶稣受难的十字架受难的解释当然会有不同，但不会具体到这个脚是怎么摆放的哈。Yeah. Okay, I think so. That's your answer, yeah.
Yes, if there are not more questions, I could talk more about this icon, but
所以祈祷的圣像是不是对？
Yes, please talk more.
So what do you want?
Please talk more on
Okay.
this topic. Please continue.
So the difference between the Orthodox and the Catholic crucifixion icons are the Catholic icon portrays a dead man, right? It is the corpus Christi, right? The corpse, the body of the dead Christ.
对于这个天主教来说，这个十字架上的耶稣呢，就是一个尸体，是一个死去的人，是死去的基督。
And this is connected to the Catholics have a much stronger emphasis on the sufferings and death of Christ.
这个当然来自于这个天主教非常强调这个基督的受难和十字架上的这种受苦。
They emphasize the death of Christ as the propitiation, the paying the price to redeem us from our sins.
他们强调这个耶稣所受的苦难是我们这个使我们从最终得解脱的一个根源。
But in the Orthodox East, there's a much greater emphasis on the resurrection of Christ.
但东正教更加强调这个基督的复活。
Christ did die, and this is a necessary part of our salvation, but it's in his resurrection that he brought man back to life.
那基督确实在十字架上死了，并且这确实是我们信仰当中必不可少的一部分但是是基督的复活把我们从死里带入复活当中。
In his bringing, when he rose from the dead, he brought all of the dead with him, and it is through this that death no longer has the power over us.
对他在这个死里复活过程中，把所有的死人都带出了这个就是说死亡不再在人间掌权了哈，就带出了死亡，把人类。
And so in the Orthodox icons of the crucifixion, you will see that there isn't this same tragedy that is in the Catholic crucifix.
所以你看东正教的耶稣受难的圣像的时候，你看不出那种悲剧、苦难或者痛苦出来，在这个圣像当中。
Christ is dead on the cross, but there is still power in his figure.
这个基督确实在十字架上死了，但是他在这个景象仍然具有这种大能。
Because for the Orthodox, we never forget the resurrection, even at the moment of the crucifixion.
因为东正教绝对不会忘记基督的复活，即使在基督这个受难的时候。
Okay, this is my answer.
OK，这个就是我的答案。
Thank you, Xenia. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, another question is about is every icon needs the priest to kind of how to say priest to place the icon and then we can use it to prayer or or not actually. Yeah.
So at the time of the controversy of iconoclasm, there did not exist a prayer to bless icons.
在这个
Uh,
对，在第七次大公会议就是这个圣像破坏运动的时候呢，并没有这个为圣像祝圣的这种祷文出现。
And this was something that the iconoclasts, the people who did not like icons, used against the icons.
这个反而是这个破坏圣像的运动人，他们不喜欢圣像的一个原因就是因为这没祝圣所以就这样子。
The iconoclasts said the icons are not blessed and therefore they're not holy.
这个破坏圣像运动人说因为这个圣像没有被祝圣，所以他们不是圣的。
And the response of the Orthodox people said it is the presence of the saint that makes the icon holy, not the prayer of a priest.
那么这个就是为圣像辩护的这些教父们说是这个圣像当中的所绘制的这个圣人使这个圣像成为圣，而不是这个神父的这个祝圣的祷文让这个圣像成为圣洁。
Now, today, more than 1,000 years later, we do have prayers to bless icons.
那当然，在这个1000年以后，我们确实有为这个圣像祝圣的祷文。
And it is a good practice to have them blessed if it's available to you.
那这个也是一个很好的操练这个你如果要的话，当然如果能找到神父能祝圣的话，那当然可以。
But it is not the blessing or the prayer of the priest that makes it an icon or that makes the saint present. That is already present in the icon itself.
但并不是这个神父给他祝圣的祷文让这个 icon 成为圣洁，而是这个圣像所绘制的这个圣人他使这个圣像成为圣的。
When something has been blessed, it has been especially dedicated to God, and we should be even more careful in how we take care of it and how we use it.
对，当一些圣像被祝圣以后我们当然会更加小心的去对待它。
It is good that we dedicate our things to God, and it is good that we ask His blessings.
我们当然我们去把这个圣像让这个神父祝圣当然是好的。
But according to the Seventh Ecumenical Council, what makes an icon is the name, the halo, and the resemblance. It's still an icon with or without the blessing.
Yeah, 但是根据第七次大会的决定确定一个圣像的是他的这个圣人的名字这后面的这个光穿圣像穿还有这个圣人的这个肖像，那么让这个像呢成为圣像，而不是别的因素。OK 我想这个问题回答的很清晰了Thank you. So I ask my question. I actually have a very trouble saying. I think is a Chinese saying. I think you may know that. So I am Chinese. So we don't have when we meet each other. We don't kiss the change each other. So it's a kind of Chinese tradition. At least in my generation. Is that we Chinese people meet each other, we maybe shake hand or just a little bow down, and that's enough. We don't hug each other and kiss. So for my personal, I think even today, and also it is a hard thing to kind of to kiss the icon for me. So and I don't know. It is just my thing or it's a Chinese thing or something else, but it's definitely have a Chinese kind of element in it because Chinese people generally, when they meet, they don't kiss each other, they don't hug each other, they just shake hands, something like that. So if that situation happens, so what we can do? If a Chinese Orthodoxy, you imagine they have a bunch of Chinese Orthodox they can be practiced this way. Do they need to change their way, or they can just keep their way? I don't know. Yeah.
This is a good question. Do you need to translate it for?
OK， 我简单说一下，就是其实我们中国人见面是彼此不像西方人一样拥抱然后亲脸颊来问候的。那么我就说了一下我的困难，我面对圣像的时候，我就很难去亲吻圣像这个是我个人的问题，并且我认为这个有中国文化的因素，因为我成长的环境呢，大家见面不彼此亲吻的就是亲脸颊问候的，没有这种习俗。所以我就问这个 Xenia。如果是有不少的中国的正教徒敬礼圣像的话，那还有必要去亲吻圣像吗？还是怎么样？他有什么建议？好 ，OK，Yeah， you can answer.
Okay, so let me ask you one question also. When you greet your father or your mother, is it the same?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, even today, we maybe hug each other, but we don't kiss. I don't know. We don't kiss. Yeah.
I think that. So one option, there are many people in the Orthodox world that will they will rest their forehead on the icon.
Oh, rest to the
Yes,
forehead?
so they'll take their icon. If these papers were the icon, they will put their forehead on the icon.
Oh,
I've seen Russians, Romanians, Ethiopians do this, and sometimes they do it, they'll kiss it and then put it on their forehead. But this is still a physical object of connection. I do think that there should be some physical connection because your body is involved in the worship.
Okay, let me translate this part. Yeah. So 当然这里还有一个可选项，就是用你的前额来贴这个圣像就是假如这个圣像的话，你用前额贴它。他说这个像罗马尼亚、俄罗斯、埃塞俄比亚的正教徒，他们有这种操练习俗，有的是亲了以后再用前额贴一下。那么这个Xenia认为对圣像的敬礼还是需要有这个身体的接触的，就是你的身体的一个部位必须接触到这个圣像。OK，yeah.
It's also, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's silly, but like small children, when they kiss the icons, right? A lot of times they can't reach them and they put their hands on them. And when small children go, they can't, they're not tall enough to kiss them. And a lot of times small children will just put their hands on them. So I do think there is some variety even within the Orthodox world as to how people approach the icons, but we should approach them as our closest friends, our closest relatives, right? Closer. They are holy people. We should give them honor, but they are our family in a way that even our blood does, even closer than our blood connects us.
那么还有一种可选项，就是可能看起来有点小，就是小孩子如果他不够高的时候，他可能就直接用手去触摸这个圣像就可以了，因为他不够高能够碰到。在正教里面确实有这样的一些区别那么我们总体来说对待圣像的方式就是因为他们你要把它当做我们的家人当做我们亲人甚至最亲的人比我们的血亲更亲的人来对待如果你觉得这样对待他合适，那你就应该是这样对待你最亲的这个至亲的血肉至亲的人来看他。Yeah.
Yeah. So these are my thoughts. I hope they're helpful. It might be something that takes some time for the Chinese people to become comfortable to figure out what will work for them. Even if it isn't kissing, I think there could be they will find a way. It will become natural.
Yeah. 我想这个对于中国的信徒来说，也许就是亲这个动作可能他们不习惯， 但是我相信他们会找到他们自己的一种方式。OK，yeah, I think your answer is very good, and I think Father Dragos is also suggesting me to that. Yeah, he says if you can't kiss, you can just use your hand to touch the icon. So I think his idea is the same. You have to have a direct body contact with the icon. I think it's important. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.
Xenia.
Okay.
Xenia.
Okay. You can say.
Xenia, thank you for your answers. Have you noticed that people in icon, they never smile? Have you noticed that?
Yes, I have noticed that. The icons do not try to depict emotions because our emotions change, right? So right now I'm smiling, but 5 minutes from now I might not be smiling anymore. And so the emotions are seen as something that is not an essential part of the person. Because the emotions are always changing. So the icons are trying to get at the essence of who the person is in an unchanging way. It's not because they're unhappy, right? It's just because it is deeper than just the emotional experience.
OK，我用中文说一下啊。OK，就是这个 Nicole 问的是，就是圣像从来不会画这个圣人是微笑的状态。那Xenia 就回答说，这个圣像不是用来表达这个圣人的这种情绪的哈，因为情绪总是在变化。那么圣像总是在这个就是定格在这个圣人最本真的一个部分上面啊，它就是不是怎么说呢？它不是。So the icon didn't rise your emotions. Is that right? We can generally say the icon didn't change your emotions like modern. Yeah.
Yes, the icon is not trying to depict the saint's emotion. It is also not trying to stir up any emotion in us.
Oh yeah. 对。So 圣像也不会激起你的一些情绪，激发你的一些情绪出来或者说你看的圣像的时候，它也没有什么情绪表达出来。Yeah, I think it's interesting that the modern world, I mean, the modern art and the music, they try to rise your emotions. So the icon is the opposite way.
It is opposite. It is, and you'll find this often in Protestant worship music and things. It's very emotional. But the problem is you leave that, and as soon as you're no longer experiencing that one emotion, then what has changed in you? What has happened? Nothing, so the goal of the icons is to reach us at a place deeper than our emotions, so that whatever happens with our emotions, that thing is still below it. It's still deeper underneath all of that.
所以他说这个新教有一些音乐或者表达形式非常的情绪化，让你处在这个情绪当中，但一旦你离开这个状态，你就又进入另外一个状态，因为情绪总是在变化。但是圣像的这种使用，它是进入这个比情绪更深的地方这样的话呢，如果你情绪产生变化，那你这个联系还在就是跟圣像的这种交流还在。所以他进入的更深一些。
What the Orthodox are always looking for is repentance. Repentance, humility, love of God. And these are things that are not on the level of our emotions. In fact, the emotional level is more of a distraction from those things. And so
shallow.
Sorry,
shallow.
Yes.
Shallow.
And so the Orthodox are not looking for happiness as we think of smiling, photographs. What we look for is what in Greek is called harmolipi, and in English it's translated as a joyful sorrow. And this is the sorrow for our sins and the joy that God forgives us and is with us anyways, right? So we are always mourning for ourselves and rejoicing in God at the same time. And this keeps us balanced between the extremes of emotions.
所以这个圣像总是带给我们这个忏悔、谦卑和激发我们对上帝的爱，而这些东西呢，不是一些情绪化的东西。那么圣像，他也说到一个希腊词哈，就是这个带着喜乐的忧愁哈，带着喜乐，就是他是在这种畏罪忧愁，同时又与上帝同在的喜乐中保持一种平衡所以就是这样子的。Okay, I think, the question is good. The last question, I think it has one more. So he asked the icon is have some similarity to the original people. Is that right?
Yes, by original people, do you mean the person that is painted on the icon?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, there is, and this is what we're calling the resemblance. What the Seventh Ecumenical Council calls the resemblance. But you will see this in icons of Christ, especially like the apostles, Peter and Paul. We have icons of the apostles Peter and Paul from the 6th century or earlier, the years 500 or something, and they're still recognizable as what they're depicted today. So the Apostle Peter always has a short, kind of round white beard and a little bit curly, short white hair. And the Apostle Paul has a bald head and a long, pointy brown beard. And these things have been in the tradition from the beginning of the church. So yes, we do believe that the icons have an actual resemblance to the person. And in the case, there are saints that maybe are not as well known. Maybe we don't know as specifically what they look like in person, but we should be able to depict them at the general age, the time frame they lived in, the clothing of, were they a monk, were they a bishop, were they a layperson? So we can still resemble them as best as we can.
OK， 你说是对的，就是这个圣像和原型哈，它是绘制的原型一定是具有相似性的。比如说使徒彼得和保罗，他们都有各自的这种面部特征，从5世纪到现在仍然保留下来，它没有变化。那我们相信呢，这个是使徒们的真实的这个面貌。那么有一些可能不是特别有名的这个圣像的话，那么我们仍然能够找到一些工具比如说他生活的年代，他的身份是修士还是主教他的服饰他的这个有没有胡须什么其他的方面的一些特征我们还是试图在圣像当中通过这些东西呢，把这个圣人的这个历史背景在圣像当中就凸显出来，同时把他的这个人物的相似性也尽量的保留下来这个是这个当然是第7次大会定下的一个原因就是这个绘制的圣像必须与它的原型保持相似性。Okay. Thank you very much. I think it's a little over time today. I think we can end here. If you guys have more questions, please tell me in the group and can share the question if you specifically want to ask the Xenia with Xenia.
Thank you, Xenia. 谢谢阿甲。
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
阿甲，但是为什么我们看到了耶稣的圣像却有很多种的面貌呢
？Okay. One more question. I don't know.
Sorry. Thank you.
He asked why we see a different icon about Jesus Christ. Is the same or they have different styles and different yeah,
the face his face is different.
There are I would have to see exactly, maybe examples of what you mean. In the Orthodox tradition, you can always recognize the face of Christ. It's maybe not always exactly the same, but there is enough that you notice. And some of this is actually written from the time of Christ. There is an account, I can't remember the name of the person who wrote it down, that says that, his hair fell just past his shoulders. It was straight at the top and curly at the bottom, and he had a short brown beard. And some of these things we know, and they're actually written from the time of Christ. So there are canonical things that should be the same in the icon of Christ all the time. Of course, different painters are going to have a different hand. It will come out a little different, but he should always be recognizable. So like I said, icons of Christ where he has blonde hair and blue eyes or something totally different, these are incorrect.
可现在认为尽管每个圣像师傅画的这个风格不太一样啊，但是首先历史上有一些史迹在基督的时期有所记载其次呢，其实在圣教圣像传统里面基督圣像都是能够认出来的，一眼就能够认出来因为它非常有特征所以应该不是这样子的。 OK 好了。Okay, thank you, Xenia and Nicole, and thank you everyone. I think today's lecture will be ended here, and it's a little over time. Yeah.
谢谢阿甲，辛苦你了，谢谢。
谢谢大家。
对不起。
谢谢大家。No problem, no problem. Yeah. Okay, thank you, and God bless you all. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Xenia. I am so blessed by your answers.
Thank God. Thank God.
Okay. 好了，我们今天到这里哈，谢谢大家。Thank you, Xenia. See you. Yeah, I hope we can have more cooperations, and thank you for your effort to the Chinese audience. I think it's wonderful, wonderful chance for the Chinese people. Yeah. Okay. 好了，我们今天到这里，谢谢大家，拜拜了啊，拜拜。
Thank you, Xenia. Thank you.